Now let's go back through that process. I want to actually share with you my script and my pitch, and I want to show you that how you kind of bounce from one step to another. Okay, so of course you have your introduction, and by the way, this is where you share this is where you confirm availability, is in your introduction. Hello, Mary. This is Michael Halper calling from Sales Script. Or hey, have I caught you in the middle of anything? Now notice that I confirm availability before I'm delivering my elevator pitch. And what people often say to me is, you should ask if they're available after you deliver your elevator pitch. And I disagree with that. First of all, if I deliver my elevator pitch, maybe they're not available to even hear my elevator pitch. But also, I don't want to know if they are available based on the elevator pitch. You know what, they are either unavailable or they're available for 2 to 5 minutes, and that is a question that I'm asking regardless of the value that I have to offer. Also, if you want to kind of, the other way to look at it is that if you are worried about the level of value that you have to offer, you're confirming their availability before you're sharing the value. So anyways, there's a lot of logic there, and this is the way I prefer it. So you could try it out either way, but then she's either going to say yes, and you know what's really interesting about this, and I'd encourage you to read the ebook that is paired with this, because there's this confirming availability. It's a very familiar way to approach someone. So it's just sit back and see how people respond to that question in a very casual way. Like, people will often say, like, they'll respond by saying something like, "Oh no, what's up? What you got?" It's like something that a friend of yours would say, because it's so informal. But anyway, so you confirm that they're available. If they say, they'll either say, "Yeah, I have a couple minutes." They'll say, "No, I'm in the middle of something," which at that point you could say, "Oh, well, I could be very brief, or I could call you back at another time." Or they might ask you, "Well, what's the purpose? What's this in regards to?" Well, if they either say yes or "What's this in regards to," you're going to progress to the same place, because that's your elevator pitch. If they're asking "What's this in regards to," you've just advanced to the next step. So here are some value statements for my product, and I have multiple value statements. So depending on what I think this person might be more interested in based on their company or based on my notes or how I'm feeling, I pick one of these. But great, Mary. Well, the reason why I'm reaching out to you is that we actually work with sales managers, and we help them to get their salespeople saying the best possible sales pitch and asking the right questions. So there's my elevator pitch. I'm not really saying about what my product is, what it does. I'm talking about the benefits that I have to offer. Now I'm going to do a takeaway. But you know what, Mary? I don't know if you guys are a really good fit for what we do, so that's why I was calling you with a question or two. Soft takeaway, push-pull, disarming her. If I could ask you real quick, and so here are my pre-qualifying questions. How confident are you that all of your sales resources are asking the right questions when talking with prospects? So I'm now asking her a question. Now, there's a lot of logic behind why these questions are at the core of this script. I mean, I'm not trying to, a lot of people will schedule appointments out of the gate. They'll do the quick close. They will, when the person answers the phone, they will try to schedule the appointment. Well, this way I'm asking questions, so I'm making it more conversational. And by the way, why would I want to schedule an appointment with Mary and put a valuable put a meeting on my calendar using my valuable time if I know that if she might not even fit with what I have to offer? Maybe she's not even a sales manager. Maybe she is a marketing manager. So anyway, so I'm going to ask her some questions, but it also becomes the purpose of the call. So instead of me I'm calling you to schedule a meeting with you, I'm calling you to sell you something. No, I'm calling to ask her a couple questions to see if she is someone that needs my help. So there's a lot of logic here. I could go through it all day, but Now, let me get back to this process. So I've asked her one question. Now she's going to say something. She's going to deliver some sort of answer. And I can go in a few different directions here, and it's explained a little bit better in the ebook than what I felt like I could do with this slide. But here are the different directions I can go. So let's say she gives me an answer to my question. I can either follow up her answer with a follow-up question, so I'm digging into what she responded to there. I can move to the next pre-qualifying question here, or let's say that she gives me an awesome answer, what I often call a ding 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 moment. So let's say this question here, how confident are you that your salespeople are asking the right questions? Let's say she says, I don't know if they are or not. I mean, I don't know what these people are saying, and it's tough to really get them all on the same page. She just gave me exactly what I'm looking for. I know from that answer that we need to meet. I know that she's worth me spending my valuable time, and I know that she is going to be interested in hearing what I have to say. So I don't have to go through all these other questions. I can progress and skip these questions and skip that common pain example step and move to the pre-close. I can jump ahead to the pre-close. I'm going to go show you what that looks like. I'm skipping this next slide, which is sharing common problems, and now I'm jumping to the pre-close, which is where I could say something like, well, you know what, Mary? I mean, that's interesting. So that's based on what you said there. We probably could have a really productive conversation, because that's the exact type of thing that we help with. As I mentioned, I'm with Sales Scripter, and we actually provide a sales prospecting methodology and tool set that not only helps you to develop your key list of questions, but also helps you to put those in front of your salespeople at the right time. So it really helps you get all your salespeople on the right page. But and so I'm going to pause there. So what I just did there is I shared some product details based on her answer. Now, if I asked a different question, I might have shared another sort of snippet there. And I'm going to, I only have a couple minutes. Right after I share that snippet, I'm going to go for the appointment. And now let me advance to the close section. But you know what? I mean, I've called you out of the blue here. It is a little bit of an explanation, sharing, how our system works. What do you think about scheduling a 15 to 20 minute meeting where I can learn a little bit more about you guys, and then I can share with you how we've helped some companies like yours to basically get their salespeople saying and asking the right questions. Are you available next Tuesday morning or Thursday afternoon for that? Or, and so there's the close. Now I skipped a lot of the script, but let me just continue in this direction, because we've advanced. We've skipped ahead to the close. But now let's say that, okay, if it closes, then I set the appointment and the process is complete. But let's say that Mary says, honestly, let's say I can't close the appointment. She doesn't agree to it for whatever. Notice that there are back arrows. I can go back up to my questions because I only asked one question. I have a bunch of other questions to ask. Or I could go back to the pain points. So let's say she says, you know what, I'm a little busy right now, so can you just send me your information? Have you ever heard that one? I'm sure you have. So now instead of accepting that, I'm going to go back up to my pre-qualifying questions. Yeah, sure, I can definitely send you some info, but let me ask you, I mean, how concerned are you about the amount of time it takes you to get new sales hires ramped up and performing? And then if she goes, well, let's just say she says, yeah, I mean, it takes us about 6 months before someone's independent. And then I can respond with, oh, well, we could typically decrease that by like 70%. So if it takes you 6 months, we could probably get someone ramped up and performing in a month. So you mentioned being too busy to get together, but I mean, if we could decrease your ramp up time by 70%, is that worth you postponing our meeting to Q4 like you just mentioned because you're too busy? Are you sure that's not enough of a reason for a 15 to 20 minute phone conversation? And so you go for the close again. And so whether you skipped ahead to the close or you're asking a couple qualifying questions, you basically, after each question, you have multiple directions you can go. You can ask a follow-up question to drill in. You can go to the next qualifying question. There is a situation here where you might get a ding 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 answer, and you keep asking. You decide to ask another question. You kind of put that in your, and you restrain yourself. You're like, oh man, that was a perfect answer. Let me ask one more question, and so you gather a little bit more for your business case, in your head before you go for the close. That's kind of up to you, but the key thing here, and you know what, you don't have to follow this to a T. The key thing here is ask your prospect good questions. Have the questions be the purpose of the call. When you can't close or you get objections, go back to your questions. So whether or not you follow this process to a T, think of the questions to ask and make them the central part of your pitch is one key takeaway here. But let's say we've asked a couple questions, 2 to 3 questions, and there on this example here, there's 5 questions. In where I pulled these questions, I pulled these questions from actually my Sales Scripter account. There's actually a few more questions, so they're not even all here. You would never want to go through all these questions on a cold call. You might come back to these questions in the appointment and go through every question in the appointment, but you only have time to go through 2 to 3 at the most. And at that point, if you're not getting any of the answers you're looking for, then you want to progress to the next step, which is sharing some common problems. At this point, we're cutting to the chase, and it's a very direct sort of yes or no question. Let's say we've asked some questions, and our questions are kind of probing for pain or concern, and let's say we don't find any. I can be really direct at this point, and I could say something like, okay, well, you know what, Mary, I don't know, it sounds like you guys are doing pretty good over there, but when I work with other sales managers such as yourself, they often express challenges that, it's tough to get everybody on the right pitch and asking the right questions. There's always a need to improve sales performance for the entire team. There's often underperforming reps that it's just difficult to get to be performing, and they usually have to be fired, and that fuels sales staff turnover. Are you just so I can kind of confirm here, are you saying that you're good in all those areas, or do you have any concerns about any of those? And then, so this is a yes or no, right? So either she's going to say, no, we're good with all of that. And at this point, I guess I'm pretty close to walking away. I mean, you could walk away, or you might get a hint of a concern. I mean, even if if she doesn't know, like if she says, well, I'm not sure, then that's enough of a reason to drill in. But you're looking for that reason to go for the close. The next step after if you find out that there is a pain or concern, then you can go to your pre-close. If you really wanted to be persistent, and not give up, you could ask your questions. You could ask for pain and get like nothing that you're looking for, and still go for the close. But and still share your product info and go for the close. But that's kind of the process. So anyways, so that's sort of our make it easy. The reason why we see this as making appointment setting easy is, for one, you never know what direction a cold call is going to go. This process, this brings a process to an uncertain area. So whether you're doing calling for yourself or you're teaching people how to do it, this is a process you can use. And then it's flexible and allows you to bounce around. And then what it also allows you to do is it allows you to get places to go back to if you're not able to close, or something that's not on this slide is the topic of objections, which we have a whole module on objections by itself. But you could kind of see objections as kind of this same routing here. Let's say you get an objection before the close or at the close or whatever, you can go back to your pre-qualifying question. So if someone says, we're happy with what we use right now. Okay, well, if I could ask you real quick, let me go back up to my questions. If someone says we're happy with what we're using right now, okay, yeah, hey, that's great. Can I ask you real quick, how important is it for you to find a way to get underperforming reps to be performing? I mean, you must have people who are not doing as well as they should be in the sales department. If you could get them to be performing, Is that something that's of interest to you, or you're happy with the current system you have, and you're happy with those people, not getting to be at expectations? Whether or not that's the perfect question there, what I'm just showing you is that you can always go back to these questions, whether it's you can't close or whether you face an objection. So that is pretty much the process. Now, you can do all that without anything that SalesScripter produces, but what SalesScripter will do is it's going to allow you to build your elevator pitch. It's going to allow you to identify the benefits you offer, the pain points you fix, the questions you should ask. By the way, it's going to allow you to do all those things for each buyer persona that you face. So you could start the process with a very broad buyer persona that's kind of like everybody, like a buyer persona is businesses or whatever. But then as you get going, like I said, you can get more fine-tuned, like you change your buyer persona to HR VPs, you change your buyer persona to manufacturers or whatever the different segments that you sell to or the different people you sell to, and then SalesScripter will keep all those questions separate. So when you go from calling a VP of HR and now you're about to make a call to a CIO, you flip a switch in SalesScripter and you then have the exact pitch right in front of you. Your key questions right in front of you, and this is one of the interfaces that all your pitch is displayed in. This is what we call our interactive script, and it kind of looks similar to that workflow that I just showed you, but you're able to bounce around from one section to another according to how the call goes. You have all your objections on the right side of the screen, so a lot of our customers really love that interface, so I just want to show you that. But just to kind of share with you how we can help you, if this does help. And before I share with you how we can help you, let me just say, everything that we've shared with you, you could probably grab like a Microsoft Excel or Word and compose your thoughts and do everything without using SalesScripter. But we do bring all this together into what we call we call the smart sales system. And so let me just explain real quickly what that is, and then we'll see if there's any time for questions. But what we mean by SMART is SMART stands for sales messaging. Okay. Now I mentioned how we're different. That like there's a lot of other methodologies out there that are all fluffy. Now our methodology and system is going to help you to build your sales messaging. I've worked for a number of different companies, worked for a lot of different sales managers. Most of the places I worked, they never taught me what to say. They never taught me what to ask. There was only one job that I worked at that kind of taught me how to deal with objections. We are going to help this system is going to teach you what to say, what to ask, and help you to build your pitch, not only to build a sales pitch, but when you're ready to help build multiple sales pitches. So that's a key part of being smart. And then the A is and, but then the R is response. So we're going to help you to build your responses. And I started thinking about responses when I had a client and I was working with him in a sales coaching way, and we went through SalesScripter and built out some just great pre-qualifying questions. And he came back to me a week later and he said, the questions, I asked the questions and they don't really go anywhere. And we went through a couple scenarios with what people were saying. And what I realized was creating the sales messaging and the sales pitch and the sales questions is not enough. What you need to also do is think about your responses. And I kind of showed a little bit of that in that workflow. So if we ask a question, we get a response, the prospect responds. How do we respond to the response? What direction do we go? How are we responding to objections? What direction are we going? So not only having a pitch, but knowing how to respond and what direction to go is key, and something that we teach you. And that's part of the T, which is tactics. So sometimes people look sort of down on the word tactic when they compare it to strategy. Strategy and just the tactics. But what I think is actually missing from the way a lot of people train salespeople is that they don't give them the tactics. So yes, there might be some brilliant sales managers out there and business owners out there that have the vision of this is what we're going to sell and this is the industry that we're going to sell to, and we're going to have this seminar and we need to get CIOs to come out to this seminar. Okay, that's the strategy. But now, what are the tactics we're going to do to get those CIOs to the event? What are the tactics we're going to do to be able to get on the phone with CIOs? What are the tactics we're going to do that when we're on the phone and we're getting to intrigue, to create just enough interest to establish those conversations? So this system is going to give you crystal clear tactics. You'll know exactly what to do, what to say, what to ask. So that's part of the smart sales system. Now, what we mean by sales system is that this is I mentioned that every cold call is unique, every prospect is unique, every product is unique. You sell something different than someone else. You might sell multiple products. Selling each product becomes unique. So it is extremely challenging for sales managers or for salespeople to really systematize the process of selling, because it's just so challenging, and there are so many scenarios that are so unique. We've systematized it. So, and it comes down to these three categories of how we can help you to implement this system. The first piece is a sales methodology. So I've given you a snippet here to our sales methodology, and I'm only talking about setting appointments. The bad news is that there's a whole process before you get the prospect on the phone. So we have a process for improving your connect rate and how you get the prospect on the phone. There's also gatekeepers that might stand in your way before you get on the phone with the prospect. So there's all these processes that are steps that are before what we talked about today and steps that are after, and our methodology covers all of that. You can access the Smart Sales System training program on YouTube for free. It's on. You can access a playlist, and you can watch. There's currently 18 videos on there, and they're anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour in length, and you can watch them one at a time. My recommendation would be go there, watch a video every morning or every night, and watch one a day or a couple a week. But you can access our methodology there. You can also access our methodology in ebooks that you can get from our website that are free. A lot of our tactics are outlined in those ebooks, and there's also a book you can purchase on Amazon that I wrote I wrote all this, but a book that I wrote on Amazon called The Cold Calling Equation, and it's about 200 some odd pages. But the nice thing about buying the book, it's only $15 versus the ebooks, is that I would recommend you get the paperback book versus the Kindle. I actually make more money on the Kindle, but I'm saying get the paperback book because you can stick it on your desk, and it's organized in a way where there's a chapter on key areas that you can work on. So you don't have to read the book straight through. You can put dogtail some pages, and you can flip through it when you're actually doing prospecting. And if you have people that work for you, you could buy each person on your team a copy of the book, and the book kind of aligns with the sales training videos that I showed you. And we do offer sales training by itself, as I mentioned in those recorded videos. We also do provide all of that training as live training, and we can either deliver that virtually or in person. What's really neat is that we can deliver custom sales training, which means our standard sales content can be customized to your world. And what I mean by this is it's still structured in the same way. But when we talk about topics like your elevator pitch, or the pain points, or the questions to ask, or dealing with objections, instead of using generic examples like I did here today, what we can do is we can basically build your pitch in SalesScripter, and then use your pitch to tailor the training materials for your salespeople. So it's ideally done for an audience of salespeople that work for the same company. But it really makes those topics more powerful when you're talking about the objections that they face and the objection responses that they should go through and whatnot. Now, by the way, most of that methodology you can access for free on YouTube and in our ebooks, and we give away a lot of that for free because where we really want to build our financial relationships with our clients is through our software platform. And so you may be familiar with SalesScripter. And what SalesScripter is it's an application that will help you to build your sales pitch. Okay, at the most basic level, Once you build your pitch in SalesScripter, it's going to use that pitch to then populate and fill out a library of sales scripts and templates. At the most basic level, that's what SalesScripter does. Now, something that we're releasing actually in the next week or so is a product called Sales Prospector. And so what this tool does is it'll link to a SalesScripter account, and it'll pull in all of the sales pitch content, and it'll populate the same library of scripts and templates. But what is different in Sales Prospector is CRM functionality. So we've always wanted to just kind of stay out of the CRM world because there's so many CRM applications. But there's such a powerful thing when you combine the sales scripter functionality, the library of documents and tools, with contact records and being able to log notes and whatnot. I mean, for example, we can in Sales Prospector, we can populate your key list of questions and allow you to document and answer those questions real easily, as you're looking at a contact and log that information real easily. We've integrated with Salesforce, and a lot of the prospector functionality is available on the Salesforce side. But now we're building it on our side and launching it through Sales Prospector. A minor thing about also that is part of Sales Prospector strategy is that there's a lot of salespeople out there that are negative on the word script, and so but even whether you work along a script or not, and we actually don't recommend that you read from a script, you should still have a key list of questions to ask. You should still have a key list of objections that you can anticipate. So, and that's what SalesScripter helps you to do. But Sales Prospector displays all of that and provides all that functionality as well. And so, if you were rolling out from a labeling standpoint, Sales Prospector might be more digestible for an internal sales force than the word SalesScripter, because sometimes salespeople freak out when they hear the word script. So just letting you under the hoods a little bit there. But the last piece here is professional services. So you could use our methodology and never talk to us, never pay us a dime. You can use our software platform, and it's all self-service, and set it up and never talk to us. But if you want help, we can provide that on a consulting or coaching basis as well. And so sometimes we work with clients and help them with like build their pitch, help them with their sales without using the software. And then a lot of our clients will subscribe to our software, and then we deliver sales coaching and consulting through the software. For example, they want to build their pitch, they want to build their script for their organization. They'll create their account in the software application, and then we'll go through and help them to fill out all the answers and questions through our consulting services in the software. And it's extremely powerful. I mean, like in a 2-hour what we often call a scripter walkthrough, their entire sales pitch will be built. I mean, it's like the equivalent of like what would typically take place in a 2-day consulting workshop, sitting in a boardroom with a sales consultant and a whiteboard. It's really, the software just really takes you through and gets to the key things, and then it builds all these documents instantly. So that is the smart sales system. I mean, the questions that I'll leave you with a couple questions, and then I'll open it up to see if there are any questions. But the question I have for you is do you want to be smart? Or do you want your salespeople to be smart? And what smart means is it means asking good questions. And because you're asking good questions and you're smart, you're getting good information from the prospect. And because you're being smart, you're making a good impression. And so do you want the prospect to think you're smart or question whether or not you're smart? So being smart will allow you to make good decisions. Because you're asking good questions, you're going to know, okay, I don't need to spend my valuable time with this poor prospect, so I need to walk away and go meet with someone else. So you're being smart there. And so, also being smart can decrease your stress. When you look at your phone and it's time to pick up the phone and find leads and generate leads, that could be pretty stressful when you don't know what to say, when you don't know how to respond, when you get shot down by objection after objection. That's not fun. So it's not fun, and it's stressful, and there can be a lot of anxiety. Well, you know what is fun is when you're smart. If you've ever been in school and taken a test, I'm sure you've been in school at some point and have taken a test. But if you can reflect on a time when you took a test where you didn't know the information, and maybe there was a time where you knew the information really well, you were smart. When you take a test and you know the information, it's not stressful. It's fun, and you can't wait to get the results back. Totally different experience. So if you want to be smart, continue this dialogue with us. There's a demo next week on Sales Scripter and Sales Prospector, and you'll get a link to register for that in your follow-up email to this. And that is pretty much it.